Hello, everybody. It's Feedback Frenzy time. I'm Heather O'Neill, Managing Director of Unpub and also the owner of Ninth Level Games. And Julie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Julia Hearn from Van Ryder Games, and I've designed and published games for the past 15 years. Ian?
Hi, I'm Ian. I own Gravitation Games along with Aaron Wilson. We've published a couple Please Fix the Teleporter and soon to be coming Aloha Earth, designed by Heather O'Neill here, along with Chris O'Neill. Really great. Hopefully this year it's going to be exciting. But really excited to be here.
Cool. So our Feedback Frenzy event, as Ben likes to call it, our non-infringing pitching style event, is basically a time for people to pitch their game to a panel of judges here. And we're not judging the quality of the game per se. We're more judging the pitch and how engaging is that pitch, and is this is this making me want to hear more? Is this exciting? Is this have good marketing potential? Is it just a really cool mechanic that needs to be highlighted? Is it really funny? Is it really weird? Whatever the thing might be, we're gonna be bringing that kind of edge to this. Julie's like our professional, has done this Feedback Frenzy many times as a judge. I've only done it once.
I don't think I've actually sat in this chair before.
I find it hilarious. And before I was in publishing, I was a teacher, so I very much enjoy doing the constructive critique, which is why I keep coming back for more.
Julie, I didn't know you were a teacher. So was I.
Yeah.
I was not.
Middle and high school science.
Mostly elementary, but I did middle school theater.
Oh, that's fun.
Uh-huh.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. So Julie's done this a couple times online. I've done it only once in person. And then it feels a little bit more like that show that shall not be named, Shark Tank, where you have the three chairs and they come up and present to you on a stage. So it's definitely a little more nerve wracking even then, I've got to say. But I'm sure we have our designers are a little bit nervous backstage, but they seem to have some really awesome pitches and they're ready to go. Anything anybody wants to bring up before we bring out the first designer, Ian or Julie?
No, I think I'm excited to hear about some games.
Cool. All right, let's do it. I believe Bill is going to be our first designer. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your game.
Yeah, so my name is Bill Huffman. I've been designing games for, in earnest for about 6 or 7 years. I'm excited to show you about my game, Armory. It's a game for 2 to 5 players, ages 10 and up. About 20 to 30 minutes per player, medium light complexity, and I think it's accessible for casual or hobby gamers. Armory is a market-driven set collection card game where players are nobles acquiring armor and weapons from a market in order to equip their warriors before sending them off to battle. I love set collection games. I think there's just something about, I love a lot of games, but set collection games, you get some of that instant gratification mid-game as you complete a set and collect points. And so one of the things I find with some set collection games is that the sets feel arbitrary within the theme. And I really wanted to develop one where the sets were inherently logical. So here, like a full set of armor covering the whole body, or a sword and a scabbard. There's specific sets of different sizes that are just ingrained within the theme. And so, like I said, it's a market-driven game. So along with armor and weaponry, players will be able to acquire coins and special items from the market. They'll be able to trade with the trader. They'll be able to hire mercenaries who are hanging out at the market. warriors and mercenaries have different sets that you can complete and with at differing point values. There's also a public objectives card that provides scoring goals for end game points. Um, like I said, the market is the central point of the game where most of the action takes place. So this market-driven sort of drafting allows players to collect the items to complete sets for their warriors or for the mercenaries in the market. Um, Much of the play is indirect player interaction, purchasing the market, completing sets, and so forth. Here's like an example, a quick example of a round. So the green player is going to pay 3 silver coins to acquire the Weaver. Um, it's 1 coin for its place in the market, and 2 because it's a special card. Then the red's turn. Red decides they're going to pay 2 silver coins for the 2 gold coins. A gold coin equals 5 silver. So in this case for red, it's a net gain of 8 silver coins. The yellow player pays 5 silver coins for the chainmail gauntlets to get closer to completing a set for one of their warriors. And the blue player decides to acquire the crossbow because it could be useful, it's free, and they'll be able to go first in the next round. Now, why? Because the order of players comes from a reflection of the market. So the next round, blue would go first, then green, then red, then yellow. Now, there's also direct interaction that can happen with the overpay mechanism to take an item from someone who just purchased it. So, for example, if we go back, right, the yellow player buys the chainmail gauntlets, but the blue player really needs those gauntlets to complete a set. So they decide they're going to overpay for it. So they'll pay the 5 silver coins, the price of the market. They'll pay 5 silver coins more for the overpay. And those 10 silver go directly to the yellow player in exchange for the card. Now, blue still gets their turn, but not only does yellow get those coins from that exchange, but the turn order differs a little bit. So instead of being last, yellow would end up going first in the next round, an extra perk. To start the next round, the market gets adjusted. So the cards that are left in the market will move to the right, and then new cards will come out of the warehouse and fill the market from right to left. So there's more to it, but that's a general gist of what a round is like. One of the things I really, really wanted to make a point of with the game was balance. I mean, obviously with card games, you need to balance the quantities. And when you've got hidden objectives and public objectives, you need to make sure the point values fit and everything. But I also wanted that balance between the randomness of cards and player agency. And since there's so much randomness with cards, it really was important for me to get that balance where the players can decide what cards to purchase, if and when to trade with the trader, when to sell an item back to the warehouse for 3 silver, when to overpay. Um, on the warrior cards, the 8-point level is a subset of the 12-point. So do you cash in for that 8-point set now and get a new warrior and see what else you can complete? Or do you wait and try and complete the 12-point objective? Do you want to go fill your warriors and get new ones, or do you want to take mercenaries off the market so that no one else can get them? Do you spend less so that you can go earlier in the round, or spend more to get what you want, but you go later? You know, is the item in the market something that you need, or is it something that you might be able to use later? Or you can even pass on the market, hoping that the stuff moves from a more expensive spot to a cheaper spot, and you can get it right by going first the next round. And lastly, it was replayability. It's a fun game, and fun helps with replayability, but there's also variance, like keep it interesting. So obviously there's the cards. The sequence of the cards will come out different each game. But additionally, there's the one public objective. Well, there's 12 in the game, but only 1 comes out each game. And the mercenaries, there are 8 mercenaries, but only 3 come out each game. And then there's player count. Like I said at the beginning, it's a 2 to 5 player game, But for the 5-player game, I flipped that scoring track over, and it expands the market and gives one more space in the marketplace so that there's more play for 5 players. And as much as I can wrap it up quick, that is Armory.
Thank you. Anybody have any initial thoughts? Who wants to go first?
So my one question is about mechanics, just to get a little bit of clarity.
Sure.
With the overpay mechanic, if you are say the blue player chooses one of the free cards, they're like, cool, I like this is great. But then the yellow player is like, wait, but I want that instead. Can they? Because but overpay seems like you just double whatever you would have paid. But
Well,
free.
it's the price of the market plus 5 silver. So if somebody got a free card, you're paying the 5. If they're paying 10 silver, you're paying 15.
Okay, so it's always plus 5. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I must have missed the plus 5 there. I was like, wait, but double free is still free.
Right.
I'm on board now. I'm on board.
And then what I didn't mention too with the overpay mechanic is that, yes, you can overpay somebody to take it from them, but then that person who originally bought it, they can actually pay 10 directly to the bank and say, no, I'm stopping you. You can't. So there's real resource management with the money too, because there's a limited amount. You start with 10 silver, but then as you spend it, you're hoping to collect some from the market, but you gotta kind of work that, because if somebody comes and takes something or tries to overpay and you can't stop them, and sometimes you don't want them to.
All right, so I'm
Sometimes you
going to
want the
stop
money.
because we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good call, Julie.
And
Go ahead.
I want to say, though, what that illustrated was a good thing in the sense that Ian was clearly invested in what you were describing, because he asked a follow-up question and then you were able to delve into yes. And what's really cool about that is, and then go into that detail. That was excellent in the sense that you had him interested in what was happening mechanics wise. And that's great. That is what you want a publisher to be doing. That's the dynamic you're not hoping for, and not having finishing and them saying, thank you so much, which means either they didn't follow it or they weren't hooked at any point during it. So that was a great example of somebody getting hooked and asking a follow-up question because they're like, I didn't get the clarification of this and I want to know, which was awesome. I wanted personally, there was a lot there. It's clearly there's a lot going on. You put a lot of time and detail into the mechanics, and you were trying to get a lot of that out there. And since you only have a short period of time, the one tweak in the balance of things is I wanted that example almost a little bit sooner, because I want the picture. I want to know the why. I know you're excited about it, and that's great, but I want to know why, because you're focusing very much on getting all the details of the rulebook out to us in that short period of time. And yes, I'm gonna, if I care, I'm gonna ask follow-up questions like Ian did to get more of the actual details. And what I want more of is I love set collection games but I wanted something that piece, that was a couple sentences in, you took a little bit of time ramping up, giving me stats, which stats are important, but we can put that up there front and center. Any publisher is going to know to look at that quickly. So get past that and get me I care about this because I wanted to do this. This is what I care about. Now let me give you a rundown of the rule set, high level, super quick. Now let me get you into an example, which you did, which was great. And now I can pause, and when somebody says, well, but how does this really work? Now you can give them a lot more details because now they're invested. So I think just tightening up certain pieces of it, you had all the components there of a really good pitch.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I was thinking was, obviously, this game, it feels like you're at a point where you're fairly, in quotes, done with the game design, so you know it really, really well. Seeing the pitch as a publisher who is or isn't interested, or just a person who wants to play at a playtesting event, you have to catch us in the first minute or two, right? So to Julie's same point, I wrote down the sentence where you said you love set collection and how you liked how it married with your theming. I thought that was great, and I would start with that. Say the name, say what kind of game it is, say that's why you did it, and also remember that in a pitch you don't have to be not that you were very like stark or formal, but you can kind of say, hey, I'm taking myself out of the pitch. I'm going to talk about why I love this. Okay, back in the pitch here, and it eases everybody, and it's a little less formal. So I think that's great to keep in. But after you were showing a couple slides of the examples and then the list of the reasons for the randomness, and then the final part, we didn't know enough yet about the game to maybe understand why those were cool, important details towards the end. So
Okay.
maybe if you have them ready, I would just say pause, ask if there's any questions. And then probably one of the questions will be one of those slides you have for your last couple slides anyway. But if not, you can go back to a slide, or you can, go forward and say, okay, great, no questions. Well, let's talk about this randomness, so.
Right. Okay. Awesome.
I've got one more comment just in general. When it comes to pitching to publishers, publishers are in the business because they like games and they've been playing games for years and they love games. And especially when you say set collection, I knew exactly what you were talking about immediately. I'm like, I'm on board. I love set collection. Let's go. What I really wanted to hear was what makes this thing unique. And just a hint, the overpaying was a really cool element. Like that is your selling point. That's what sets aside your game from other things. And so we all, like, you can assume that publishers know what a set collection game is and kind of how they work. Jumping directly into that unique moment of like, okay, imagine that you're sitting down. Put the publisher in that seat. Imagine you're sitting down. You want that one piece right here. You take it, you pay your money, you're like, yes. But then the next player goes. And they're like, you know what? I want that instead. And they get to overpay. And they get to steal that from you. But you get to go first next round. Oh, okay. And you get the money? Oh, I'm on board now. Okay, so really put the publisher in the place of the player and say, like, okay, imagine you're in this spot. Because it gets them invested. I'm now like, I'm already invested. I'm like, I want to play this. So that's the really big key takeaway, I think, for me, is that you really want to get to that unique point, put the publisher in that position, and show them why it's cool.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Bill. If you have any kind of social presence that you want to plug, or a website, a design blog, or anything, let us know.
Great. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely, Bill.
Okay. Good start there. I was wondering when someone was going to ask about the overpay. I wrote overpay and visuals.
That, like, I don't know of any other set collection game that lets you literally steal from someone else, and that just is a delight. And I wanted to hear more about that. And so, I mean, that's the big.
And that's a good sign.
That's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Who do we got next? I believe it might be Taran. If my list is correct.
It is Taran.
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Indeed.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Taran Harmon Walker. I'll go ahead and present.
I think we have to. Let's see here. Yep.
So my game is called Hold'em Havoc. Theoretically, ages 10 plus, but there may be some precocious young kids. I don't know. 3+ players is ideal, and it's roughly 15 minutes per player. So I have a bold claim, I think, which is I think that Texas Hold'em as a game, the best part about it is the gameplay and not the gambling. I think there are 3 major advantages that Texas Hold'em as sort of a base game has over other styles of games. It's got a very dramatic form just automatically because you get more information over time in each hand. It has very flexible winning conditions, or rather, the amount, like in all poker, you can bet a certain amount of your own basically victory points and get back the same amount or usually more. And then finally, it's a quintessential game regarding hidden information. You are wagering that you are either bluffing or you're wagering that your own cards, which only you can see, are better than someone else's cards. My game preserves the first 2 of those awesome design elements, and really drills down on the third one, hidden information. And it does so by adding a dimension of gameplay. Before you bet, you can reveal your own cards to everyone else for advantages. So you may choose either or both of your cards to reveal face up in front of you so everyone can see them for an advantage based on the card's suit. We have 4 new suits to play with. This one is coins. Coins, for example, if you reveal one of them, you can flex. Flex lets you call any bet or raise by the ante amount. Both options are free. So if someone was to bet and you don't want to put in your own victory point / chip / influence, then you can reveal, oh, I have this coin, and then you can basically just skip putting in your own victory points. So these 4 suits that we've come up with are roses, coins, swords, and masks. All cards of those suits do the same thing if you reveal them to everyone else. And there's one combo ability that you have every hand, which is based on both suits. So if you have for example, here, if you have a rose and you have another rose, you can dally. If you have a rose and a sword, you can rescue. Rose and coin, seduce. Rose and mask, revive. However, if you combo reveal, then you can't single reveal. So you couldn't then rebound with your card. You can only reveal once. I have a video which I'd like to show one demo hand, and do a bit of a play-by-play of how these new reveal abilities affect the gameplay that people may or may not be familiar with based on their knowledge of Texas Hold'em. I'll try to go through it for anyone who doesn't have a lot of knowledge. All right, so oh wait, sorry. It hasn't switched over. How do I, let me try resharing real quick to see if it catches up.
Well, I'm going to spoiler alert and say we already have questions, so that's probably a good sign.
Okay, great. All right, so here we are. So we're interrupting a game already in progress with 4 players, green, blue, red, and yellow. Rather than a blind bet, we're just anteing 1 chip, otherwise known as an influence. All right. I recorded this in Tabletop Simulator earlier. We have printed actual cards for playtesting and for sale. In any case, so here we have the flop, the first 3 cards of the community, shared cards that everyone can use to win. We have the 10 of masks, 7 of coins, and 9 of coins. So players can combine their own cards with those to potentially create a straight, 5 consecutive cards, or a flush, 5 cards of the same suit, which would be really, really good hands and would help them win. Or maybe they could pair one of their cards with the 10, for example. All right, so continuing on. So the first player will be represented by the knight here. It'll be the blue player. The blue player will check, wagering nothing. Then there's red. Red is betting, putting in a chip, which means everyone else will have to match that chip in order to stay in the hand, potentially win the antes that have already been wagered. Now, the yellow player, we could put in our own chip, but we have this coin I mentioned earlier. With a coin, we can reveal it to everyone to flex. Now, revealing doesn't mean we can't use it to win. It just means everyone knows what it is. So we reveal the card, we put it face down in front of us, and we don't have to match that chip. We can just pass the turn to the next player. It is then green's turn. Green calls, and blue also calls. Everyone wants to see that next card, which they will share. Next card is a jack of coins. So now there are three coins, which makes us feel kind of good about the possibility of having a flush, which is such a good hand, potentially could win. But it starts with blue. Blue will be the first person to either reveal or bet their choice. They choose to check. Then red bets again, puts in another chip. We have to decide. What are we going to do? Are we going to call? Something we can do, we have a pair of 10s and we have 4 coins, so that's not terrible. But we've only got 1 chip in, so is it worth it? What we do is we reveal the rows. Revealing lets us discard one of our cards. Sorry, this is called rebound is the ability. You can discard one of your cards to draw a new one. If the card you discard is face up, then the card that you draw is face up as well. We discard the 2 of roses. So we've used the road to discard it and replace it. Oh, and now we get a 10 of roses instead. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone now knows we have 3 of a kind, which could potentially become 4 of a kind or a full house with that last community card. But it's not a coin, so we might not have a flush. Flush would be way better than 3 of a kind in any case. We call because it's pretty good what we got, even though everyone knows what we have. Green isn't revealing anything. Green just calls. And blue, what's blue going to do? Blue reveals a single mask, which lets blue snoop. Snoop lets you look at any 2 hidden cards, including cards in the community that haven't been turned face up yet. So blue chooses that last community card to see what it is. Puts it back, and then chooses one of red's cards to look at. Then puts it back. And then what will blue do? Blue reveals a single sword. A single sword lets a player attack a community card. Choose a community card to discard so no one can use it, and it's not replaced. Now, however, every other player will have an opportunity with attack to block it by either revealing their own sword for no other benefit or discarding a card. So red doesn't. It's up to us. Do we block and protect that 10? There's really no point, right? Because even though it creates a 3 of a kind for us, then we'd lose our own card. So we leave it. We don't block, and neither does green. Wait for the video to catch up here for a second. And so the 10 is discarded and not replaced. Then blue, how is blue going to end their turn? After revealing, you must bet. Blue calls, sees that bet, and then raises. So now red has to make a decision. How confident is blue? Blue now knows what that last community card is. So red has to decide, is blue blue bluffing? What's going on? Well, it turns out red has a mask and a coin, jack and queen. Now, what mask plus coin does is withdraw. So this is a combo reveal. They've revealed both cards in order to fold and take back half of their chips rounded up. So they take back 2 of their chips, which they bet, and fold. They knew that this entire time that would be an option. So that's why they were betting so ferociously. But now they're out of the hand. Now it's our turn. We lost our third 10, possibly, so we have to decide, are we staying in? No. We are, the odds of that being a flush are so minor. We'll just fold, cut our losses. However, sorry.
Sorry, Taryn. Yeah, we're running out of time. I was going to say, if you could just wrap up there. Thank you.
It's almost over.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So green will call, and then raises. So blue wants to know what that last card is, or wants to know what green's cards are, and so just keeps it going. Blue checks. Green will catch up video for this last bit. Green raises or bets, and then blue has to decide if green is bluffing. At this point, green hasn't revealed anything. What does green have? It's a flush after all. and so green will win. And so that's the gameplay. That's a pretty basic round of Hold'em Havoc. For people who know Texas Hold'em, that went a little bit differently. The object is to make the game a little bit more interactive, and really drill down on some suit fantasy, add some interesting gameplay, without completely changing the core tenets of Texas Hold'em. So I heard there was questions way earlier. Apologize.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and stop presenting.
Yeah, that's great as a concept for a game.
Thank you.
Straight off the bat, I was engaged. I played a lot of poker growing up, and there's a lot more people who will play cards than necessarily hobby gaming, and that is a great segue. I would, so seeing it was fantastic. You started strong. I mean, it was a very bold statement saying that gambling is not the most interesting part of poker, and then explained what you meant and that you were going to really drilling down in the partial hidden information piece of it, and then you delivered. For a presentation, just make sure that, and you recorded it, which is smart, so that you can just do the commentary. Just know what your timing is and make sure that so maybe it's 3 players. It's an example with only 3 players playing instead of 4 or whatever it is to shorten the time. I know you were trying to get in every example of every type of card and what everything would do. Again, give the publisher the opportunity to say, but what does roses do? Give them the opportunity, because you're testing how interested are they? Because I can assure you, if I had seen this, I would have said, but what does roses do?
Yeah, it's something I was just thinking. I've seen a lot, just because I've seen a lot of these online pitches, is absolutely do the video you made, but that's your 2-minute video, your splash video that you send out with that's not necessarily what you do in the meeting. In the meeting, you can take screenshots of different points of Tabletop Simulator and just quickly point it out, so that everything you just told us in that 3 minutes or whatever, you did in 30, 40 seconds, and we can get to questions. So from a pitch perspective, I would say that's too long, but definitely make it and have it available and have a QR code or a link on your sell sheet for that, 100%. I also thought it was a really interesting concept. I also played a lot of Hold'em, and I still sometimes do. And I love card games and bluffing type games like Liar's Dice and things like that. So I thought that was a fun thing. And I can see the uniqueness of the 4 suits and how they combo being like an interesting thing that I haven't seen before. So good job.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm going to give similar feedback to what I gave Bill in the last one, in that put your publisher in the place of actually a player. Hold'em is something that I would hazard a guess that almost every single publisher has played or currently plays pretty often, or has in the past, and so they have familiarity with that. So do you know how to play? Like, if we know how to play Texas Hold'em, you can just ask, do you know? And if we say, yeah, I'm pretty familiar. Okay, cool. Here are your cards. Here are my cards. We're going to reveal yours. I'm going to pretend I don't know what yours are, but let's go through a round. Boom. And then just literally start playing and just say, like, okay, well, here are your options, and literally walk them through like what they could do and ask them, like, oh, what would you do in this case? Immediately they know what they're going for. Like it's all apparent. It's just learning the couple new rules of like, oh yeah, like I if I reveal this, I get a big boon, but they know now. And now, like, already you can see that the gears in their head are turning. So I would shift really quickly from the rules explanation to literally just don't explain the rules. Just say, it's Texas Hold'em with some interesting twists. Here are your cards. Let's go.
I loved the saying something slightly bombastic at the beginning.
Oh yeah, no. Lead with that.
You
lead with that completely. Like, this takes Texas Hold'em.
They're gonna fight you, and then they're gonna love you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, no, seriously. Here, let's play, and just get it in front of them and actually play. It would have been so cool if you'd had like Tabletop Simulator and been like, okay, here is your hand. What do you guys want to do? Let's go. Like all three of us would have been like, okay, what do we do?
We're in. Yes.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good point. But I think to Julie's point, to second that, you made us immediately engage when you said that, because it was a quote unquote shocking statement, right? It wasn't. So a good statement about the game is always great, but if there's some way you can kind of get everyone to stop what they're doing and think like, wait, what is he saying? Now I really got to pay attention. It's good for a pitch, for sure. So I thought that was great. I thought your a couple of things would have been to just like, again, not say it, but maybe somewhere in there, instead of having the slides with the list of text, have like, oh, just an overview with some of the component information, the fact that it's just hold them with this one thing. You could have just had there while you're telling us other points, and gone through some of the images of the game. But otherwise, I thought overall it looks good, and I'm excited to see it, more of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, let us know if you have any kind of online presence in your Twitter or design blog. You can post it in our private chat, and we'll make sure it's out on Discord.
When we can play it.
And we can play it on Tabletop Simulator.
Sounds good. Yeah, we have a Discord and website and all that, so I'll link that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Yeah, if we would have been able to play a hand right there, I would have been like, what are we doing, guys?
And let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, I did find myself, because it was a little bit of a slower video, thinking as I'm trying to think of the card, well, what would I do? Like I was thinking that when I had the 2 10s, I'm thinking, well, which exactly is your point, Ian, where I was like, oh, I wish I was actually playing, because I'm thinking about what I would do,
Yeah.
which was cool.
And if you do that, if you're still listening, Taryn, like literally stack the deck, like make it, like swing it as much as possible in the publisher's favor, so they have to think, but still make interesting decisions. So it's like, so good. Like that's the easiest way. Oh man, it's just it's cool. It's cool. I think we're ready for the next person.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Hello.
All right. Hello, Steven.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on here today. My name is Steven Swords. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. I'm sharing my, yeah, there it is, my sell sheet here. I'm not going to spend too much time on the sell sheet today, but I did want to show it off while I give the initial info here. Today I'm showing off my new area majority strategy game called Knighthood. Knighthood's a game for 2 to 5 players. It plays ages 10 and up, and takes between 45 to 90 minutes to play. Each player will be taking on the role of a knight of King Arthur's Round Table. A few of the key mechanisms involved here in Knighthood are area majority, simultaneous play, open drafting, and dice rolling. The general goal of the game, in order to win, is gain the most favor, which is our term for victory points. And to do that, you're defending your country and hoping to become successor to the king by winning. Now, let me just toggle my screen for 1 second, and instead of showing you guys the sell sheet, I'll just pull up the Tabletop Simulator mod here to reference as I'm giving the rest of the overview. Each game is played over 4 rounds. Each of the rounds is broken into 3 different phases: preparation phase, conflict phase, and our regroup phase. We're going to track the rounds of the game pretty simply on this little year tracker here. I'll try to zoom in on some things as I reference them as best I can without making people sick by jumping all over the place. Now, let me quickly walk you through the steps of each round to show you how the game is played. Again, 4 rounds. They're mostly the same, those 4 rounds. To start each round, the person who's first in turn order will be drawing 2 event cards. I've got a couple event cards that I've already flipped over here. Once they draw those 2, they're going to pick one and put it into play. So that's going to be my active event for this round. And these events, they're going to alter the standard or typical area majority rules in one of the 4 regions on our board here. And also the events. This is where we get a majority of the thematic flavor text in the game. This event here just so happens to be the Holy Grail. Again, King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table is our theme for knighthood. Next, each player is going to be dealt 2 quests. They're going to keep one of those. These quests are hidden objectives. Players will be able to complete those quests in order to gain points throughout the game. And since you get 1 at the start of each round, you'll be able to have at least 4 of those throughout the game. But there are other ways to gain quests throughout the game. And typically it involves winning or placing in battles, sometimes under specific conditions or specific regions, also achieving milestones or performing specific actions. Next, we will reveal age cards to form the draft market. So all of my age cards, I've already revealed them up here. And we will also place reward tokens onto the round table. Here is my round table. I've already placed those 3 reward tokens onto the board there. I have set this up for a 4-player game, and what that means, I've placed tokens here on seats 2, 3, and 4, or we're skipping past seat number 1, and it does go up to 5, as I said, but in a 4-player game, we're just not using that 5th seat. Let's see. And we have also dealt out 9 cards. That's because 4-player game is going to be 2 times the number of players plus 1. And right now I'm using cards that come from this Age 1 deck. And that's because I'm in round 1. If I was in round 3 or 4, we'd be using cards from the Age 2 deck instead. Just slightly stronger, powered up, things like that, as you might expect on a general progression type of thing throughout the game. Once we've dealt these out, players are going to be taking turns, taking actions, and the actions you're going to take is to either draft a card or to choose your seat at the round table. And you can choose to take you're going to be taking 2 cards and the seat at the round table 1 time. So it's up to you the order that you're doing that. I could take 1 card, then my seat, then my other card, or the seat, and then both cards, whatever. It's up to you. The round table here, this is going to determine the turn order in our following round. So a quick example, if I take my little cube here and choose seat 2 on the round table, covering up my little token here, this would mean in the next round, I will be second in turn order. Also, if I choose one of the seats here that has one of these reward tokens on it, that's a reward that I would get to gain instantly. And so the other players might take seats 1, 3, or 4 on their turns. And the cards up here, we're going to be drafting these cards. They let you recruit new ally characters. They also let you power up your units or place units onto the board. And they can give you in-game scoring or ongoing abilities as well. So I've got a wide variety of them here. And just to highlight a few specifics on the cards, the bit in the top left with the little person head and a plus, that tells me how many units I get to place onto the map when I draft that card. So every card is going to be letting you place units onto the board. Some cards will let you power up your leaders. Other cards, again, like in-game scoring. And many of them will have ongoing effects, and they'll also let you power up those leaders. So there's no duplicates in the game. They're all different, the cards in here, and they work towards various strategies, the different types of cards you might be choosing. So after everybody has drafted 2 cards, chosen their seat at the round table as well, then they'll get 1 more turn, which is placing your leader onto the main board here. I've just gone ahead and placed my leader and 3 of the little warriors onto the board for an example I'll do in a second. So typically when you place your units, you can place them in any of these 4 regions. There's not many restrictions in that side of things. So after that, you're done with preparation. You move on to the conflict phase. Preparation and conflict, that's the heart of the game. But conflict is the real fun part. That's when all the dice rolling is going to be coming into play. So 4 regions here. There's going to be a battle that takes place in 3 of these 4 regions, and the event takes place in the 4th region. And you can see this example here, Holy Grail. It might be hard to see, but Alba is the region that this one's affected, so it would be taking place in Alba, the top region up here, and the other 3 would be the typical or regular battles. So during these battles and events, players will be simultaneously rolling their dice based on the strength of their units in that region. So for a quick example, if I have 3 warriors and my leader, as I have in this region right here, I would have 5 total strength. That's because my warriors have 1 strength each. And looking over at my leaderboard, you can see a strength and a focus stat. My leader has 2 strength. So to the example, that would be 3 plus 2 is my 5 total strength. So I'd be rolling 5 dice in this region. For quick reference, there's 12 dice for each player. Every dice has some sides with 2 hits, some sides with 1, and some sides with no hits. So after you roll your dice, you'll have a chance to re-roll dice if you have any focus in that region. At the beginning here, everybody's leader starts with 2 strength and 1 focus. Again, you can power this up through those cards you draft. If I have 1 focus, as I just do right now, then I would only be able to re-roll 1 die in that region. So, if I roll 5, there's a chance that some of those are going to be misses. So re-rolling those misses is going to give you double the chances at getting those hits. And again, typically it's the higher, the most hits is going to win most of the battles. That's the standard rule. Most hits wins. But some of the events, they will provide a completely different winning condition. This event, for example, it's the same winning condition, but the rewards are altered. Some of the units, like these allies, they have their own stats, completely their own stats. So just one example, this mercenary ally here, he has 2 strength and 1 focus. So if I had him, he is represented by these units down here. So actual figures in real life, but just somebody we can put on the board here. They would come with their own dice and their own reroll stats.
Awesome. It looks like we're about at time. Is there anything else you want to say quick to wrap up on the pitch?
Sure. Yeah. So we're going to go through all 4 of those. Again, typically the highest hits wins. At the end of each round, you'll have a chance to reset your troops. You'll be pulling some of your warriors off to let you go up the allegiance track, which is the sideboard over here. There's some variability with the tokens that are on the sideboard for difference in game setup. Of course, difference in setup, of course, and how the cards come out, how the tokens come out. I just got bags here for randomizing that. All of the leaders have their own powers, so there's enough to have everybody dealt a couple of those, and you choose one. And ultimately, the one with the most favor wins the game. And generally, around 100 points has been winning it for us. That's it for me here today. If you have any questions.
I mean, first I want to say is that your name really fits with your theme, Steven Swords.
Yeah, I don't even that was my first question. It's like, is that your actual name? And did you just decide to make knighthood because of that?
It is my name, and it's just a coincidence. My wife thought of the theme, and I turned it into a game, and we both like the theme. Of course, I'm not wed to the theme. I think any other theme in a similar vein could fit into this system pretty easily, but this is an easy one to work with.
So you have some amazing hooks in this, which you did share, but very dispersed out. So you have the round table.
Yes.
That's so cool. I spent the first minute just staring, going, "Is that the round table? Is that the round table?" Before you gotta lead with that. That's the round. I had da 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 in my head. Like you've already got like the theme, like the way you presented the theme is great. Like really highlight it, like on the board. And you gave us card count and the rationale behind it, which I don't need in a pitch. And at the 1 minute warning, so 5 minutes in, you said combat is the really fun part. If that's the really fun part, I need it not at minute 5.
Up front.
I mean, bring it to like get high level and say there's going to be these things, and we can go into them in more detail when, you know, if you're interested. There's an event card and it's going to do some stuff, and we have individual player cards, and we're doing all of this, and then there's combat, and then I mean, Ian. I'm going to let Ian say his thing because I know he's going to say put us in it, but like as all the details on it.
I mean,
it's combat.
Am I wrong?
No, it's the cool part. You're going to throw a wadded dice and you're going to fight against somebody. That is the cool. You are correct, sir.
You put the dice in their hand and say, here's a battle. Let's go.
Yeah. Give it to me sooner. Give the pander to your audience. Give them what they want. So that's my feedback on that this looks super cool. I wanted the round table faster, and I wanted the combat faster.
Just real quick, because Ian, I'll let you go. I know this game isn't a tiny game that takes 10 minutes, but all pitches I feel like should be under 3 minutes. So work towards getting it under 3 minutes before you take a break to ask for questions, even less if you can. But I think we start getting overwhelmed with things, and then we're not sure what matters and what doesn't matter. Luckily, we knew the dice mattered. So even though that came later, we were like, this is cool. But what if it was something we couldn't quite see as an interesting part? You know, it might have got lost in the shuffle. So I would just overall just say, try to keep it down to 3 minutes, and then take the other 7 minutes to let us play or do examples, etc.
Right. So again, I'm going to go back to getting that publisher to the table as quickly as possible. The more that you can, I mean, think about it in terms of car salesmanship. Like if you are a car salesman, what is the first thing that you do to get them to actually buy the car? You get them to drive it. That's why test drives are so important. Like, because once someone sits behind the wheel of a car, they're like, oh, I can see myself driving this. That applies exactly to game publishers, because if we play a game and we just get a little taste of something, we're like, ooh, I see where it's going here. This is neat. That will have us hooked enough. You want to hook us and then let us explore the mechanics ourselves. Because again, publishers know games. We are in this business because we freaking love games. Like, Julie, I don't know how many board games you have in your house.
Over 6,000.
Okay. I'm not allowed to have that many. I have about 500.
Another publisher.
Yeah, and so like we've played literally thousands of games, and we have a very good grasp of what's going on. And so the faster that you can get us to, okay, do you understand this enough that we can just do a cool thing here? Okay, this is what's really cool. Let's do it. And show us what's going on. You play Knights of the Round Table. Here's the round table. You get to do this really cool thing where you choose the play order or draft a card. It's a really interesting choice. Cool. Let's go. We don't need to know the whole story. Just putting us in that seat as quickly as possible and just trust us. Just trust us to know kind of where to go with it and be able to learn on the fly, because oh my gosh, we have seen so many games where we've had to learn on the fly, probably to its detriment. But like this one,
and if we haven't learned and we're asking you questions, that means we care.
Exactly.
That's your way of gauging.
You actually want to leave. Yeah, sorry, you want to leave it a little bit so that there are questions, because if you're done and there's no questions, then maybe they've glazed over or they felt like they got everything out of it. You want to leave them wanting more. Another quick thing Ian made me think of, which was not just get everything in front of them, of course, hand them pick your color. Here's your handful of dice. That's awesome. But I think some of the things that you were saying were things that really best left on the sell sheet and not necessarily said. Definitely on the sell sheet, definitely on the pitch video that you also send as a link. But the other thing is they know games. And if you accidentally word something too, that's not quite what they think the definition for that should be, then they're kind of at a disconnect and they might call you out on that right away. Say, well, how do you mean this is a 4X game? Or how do you mean this is a worker placement game? So sometimes it's better to just kind of jump in with the cool thing and let them ask you questions too, depending on, the type of game it is. But I thought it looked pretty awesome. I also love that round
Oh, it
table,
looks super cool.
and I love all those dice. So
I mean, you're doing exactly what the Fox experiment just did, and I freaking love that. You choose the play order, you get cool stuff, or you have to choose your parents. Oh, it's so good. And so it's like doing exactly very similar things here, and I'm here for it. And I just love the round table. It's so intuitive. Everyone knows exactly what's going on.
Waiting. We were waiting.
I know.
When you started talking about it, we were both like,
I would see Julie do this, and then a little later I saw Ian doing this, and I knew what you meant because I was doing it as well. It was really fun. So good job. I think the game looks awesome. Just, tighten it up a little bit and point that fun factor out earlier, I think is the recap, right? Right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great recap. Thank you so much. I'll definitely focus on bringing the fun and getting them involved quicker, and leave the stuff to the
fun.
tell
Just
sheet,
make
like
sure
you said.
you highlight the fun.
Excellent. Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And if you have any
Thank you,
links you
Steve.
want to share, we'll post it and share it with our audience.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Round table. I know. Round table.
Hopefully, like the people watching this are starting to get a good feel for what to expect when going into a publisher meeting.
Yeah.
We don't need to hear the whole rules run down.
Well, and before we bring on the next person, we're also doing this in a controlled environment where we're giving them the 6 minutes before jumping in, because to be honest, in a pitch, I will start directing the pitch if I feel like it's.
Oh yeah.
That's
so also be aware when you're giving a pitch, if the publisher thinks it's going off the rails and going towards places they're not ready to explore, they're going to start asking the questions that they want answered.
Yep.
So be prepared to be interrupted a lot if that's the case, and be okay with it. Be excited to answer those questions, not frustrated that they're messing up your very carefully planned and practiced pitch.
Yeah. And sometimes
Which
they don't
we appreciate.
Yeah, which we appreciate. But yes, sometimes they don't jump in because they don't think the pitch is going well. Sometimes they just want that answer right then. They don't want to wait till 6 minutes to say, well, what's
Because we
overpay?
have the
Or
attention span
what
of
about that
small
round?
children.
Right. What's that round
And
table?
see
all
a
about?
round table.
I see a lot of dice. Well, how do I roll those?
Right.
So they're gonna do that, and so it's probably, like you said, it's best to be just prepared for that. It's great.
Right.
Awesome. All right, let's bring the next person in.
Remember, if we're asking questions, we're engaged.
Hi, Nat.
Hi, Nat.
Hi, good to see you. Are you ready for me to jump in?
Sure.
Yes.
Amazing.
Take it away.
Yay. So I'm Nat Messnard. I am a tabletop role-playing game and story game designer. So I'm pitching a story game I've been working on called Assemblage. And I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. I just have this layout I did of the guidebook for this game, because it's a cards and guidebook story game that I would compare to a game like Dialect. Are you guys familiar with Dialect? Fantastic. It's also inspired by Women Are Werewolves, which is another card-based story game I'm so obsessed with for many obvious reasons that are resonant with this group of judges and also with my history as a game designer. So if you're familiar with those games, then what are you laughing about?
Oh, we are. I think Julie's about to explode.
I'm glad. I'm here to make you explode with joy over games of this nature, because
Nailing
they're
it.
serious.
Keep going.
Great. We're gonna debrief this at the end to find out what all the explosions are. But I'm glad you're reacting this way, not being like, oh my God, a serious story game, because that is what this is. It is a climate punk game where, unlike in most story games where you would play as an individual character, in this game you play as an entire species. So the idea is, together with the other people at the table, you are crafting fantastical species and then establishing the relationships of those species, which is what collectively an assemblage is. It is a group of species that are interrelated, connected. It is another word for ecosystem, but through the lens of an assemblage, the idea is we can examine the relationships of various amazing kinds of creatures without assuming anything about them in advance. So this story game is about finding out what those relationships are and exploring them, and then exploring how they react when there is a ecological disaster. So that's the overall storyline of the game. And what will happen when you play this is you will experience through this guidebook and then a series of prompt cards, a story that happens in about 5 parts. This is sort of detailed, so I actually realized that probably the best thing for me to do would be to just tell you what those 5 parts are instead of getting into the nitty-gritty of the rule book. But I do have this rule book available if you'd like to go through it. Essentially, what's going to happen is you are going to create species and establish their relationships. You are going to tell stories and myths of what your species understands about the other species at the table. They can't talk to each other. They don't have the same language. So this is about how you understand creatures that you could never communicate with. Are they gods? Are they ghosts? Do you even know that they exist at all? Do you live on the back of one of them? And they're simply the ground in which you've made your home. The third thing you'll do is encounter a disaster. Respond as a collective. There will be an extinction event where one species is no more. And then finally, in the end, there will be the introduction of a single new species that makes its way into your assemblage, and storytelling about how this creature integrates with the ecosystem as it stands post-collapse. So that's the overview of it. That's what you do together. The materials of the game, again, are a guidebook and cards that help you along in doing that process. And basically, I have pictures of cards because this is where we're at. It's literally just a PDF. I can zoom this a little bit. I have a little note over here that's just basically saying this game is still in development. But the idea is that in each phase of the game, there are different sections to the deck that help you along in doing things like selecting the setting where you're creating this assemblage. So Abyss and Atacama, the blue cards, are setting cards. And then on the top, you have examples of relationship cards. Predator Prey would be an example, Parasite, another one. And the game continues on like that with pretty simple, easy to understand drawing and selection mechanisms that help push the storytelling along so people don't get blocked or feel that their knowledge of animal biology is being tested. This is just about feeling into relationships, feeling the grief of loss and disaster, and then also exploring the possibility of strange and miraculous interspecies relationships, even in the face of really scary and terrible things happening. So yes, it is a serious story game, but my hope is that it's hopeful in the end. And that's pretty much what the game is. So again, out to fans of Women Are Werewolves or Dialect, who want to lean into those more serious emotions, maybe cry a little, and forever remember the animal that you created at the table.
Okay, so the only thing that I have to say is I know that you know that I'm not that. Okay, I used to be a science teacher, and like this would be the best way to teach ecological interactions. I like immediately I just was reading through this and listening, and I'm like, dang. I kind of wish I had this, because it's really hard for people to understand, especially kids, to understand like how things interact when they haven't seen it before. A lot of kids grew up in cities, and they haven't experienced nature, and they don't see the interactions. Well, what if we just take the reality out of it? Let's make it up. All of a sudden, now you put it in the hands of really creative people, and there's a lot of cool places you can go with this. This reminds me of games like Microscope, which like it's just pure imagination, and the fact that I'm getting into way
He's
too
so
much
excited.
here.
Yeah.
Like this, you have caused me to nerd out way more than I frankly should in the 5 minutes that we have here. I think this is a phenomenal idea. What I really, really want to see happen with this is like, oh man, I don't even know how to. I would push in on the again getting it into the hands of the whoever's looking at it, and just say like, here, what kind of creature do you want to be? Let's go, and if there's like a mini way of doing it where you can kind of just break it down, like what you did was already really good. I'm already invested. I really am in, like, I want to know more. I want these cards. Like, let's go. But like to get a pitch, like what you have is a good start. But then just say like, hey, I brought a little mini version. And we can just play like a quick little like 2-minute back and forth, and you can get a feel for what the game really is. And you may have like pre-generated characters.
See, this is where one of the cases where I
go,
so
Julie.
Much. I love it so much.
Yeah, like this is fun.
I let you do because we mirrored feels. We're hearing a lot of feels today, and we're vibing so hard.
Yeah, it's former teacher vibes.
Yeah, I'm also a teacher, so yeah, I vibe.
So there's that. You listed 2 of my favorite RPGs that I'm always like, have you played? And everybody's like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay. So yes, all the magical words were already from the very beginning, but you asked, do you know? Have you heard of? And then you knew, like, from our reaction, you were like, let's go, because you already knew that we were there. So that was great. You had already established a baseline so that you knew we were already had a lexicon of understanding of where you were going, that you didn't have to debrief us on. That was amazing. Because something like this, and having played narrative games where there is a lot of still, you got to be careful about, so also having worked in RPGs and doing ones with darker theming and making sure that I have lines and veils and X and O in place for a lot of things. To do a 2-minute demo is actually very hard for something that is such a serious topic without hitting on, there is a fine line of that. So you might be like, hey, let's start with the creation. We're just going to do the creation. We're not going to get to the disaster piece of it or the interact. So if you are, but being mindful of that, it's much harder to do. Talking about it, and this is also one of those rare times where I might actually commission one piece of art to make one super out there creature, azure, so say I have and I may, it's underwater, but it also this is an oxygen rich, so they don't actually need gills of what they're doing, whatever it is. And you've made something, and then you have already commissioned the art, and then you're like, bam, at the end of it, you show the art, might be actually worth it also, because then you can have that character that you made forever. And if you need names of artists, but I feel like people, but if not, I have suggestions. Because man, I just want to play it now. All right. Good pitch.
Yeah. Great pitch. I loved your energy. I thought it was great that, you asked if we knew dialect right away to kind of gauge without assuming it or not assuming it and wasting our time with things, which again, not wasting, but time you can be better used somewhere else, I guess I should say. And then just using this as a visual while you're talking was good. It gave us a vibe. We could tell right away by just this picture we're seeing right now, kind of what it was already going to be before you even spoke. And then you explaining how it was going to go was great. And I agree with Ian and Julie. It's hard to do a playtest in those kind of games, because I happen to Make Women a Werewolf, so I'm familiar. We did an actual play for that, and it was like, ooh, maybe we can't do that many actual plays. It gets too serious, you know. So it is tough, but I think having the example cards and having like a little set of like, this is the steps. We don't have to do it, but I'm going to show you what it would be like, and you're holding the cards, and you choose one of these cards or whatever it is. That might be a good way to still engage them and have them holding it in their hands.
I also want to note that this is one of those interesting RPGs where, again, like Microscope, you don't own any one thing. And in this case, you're actually taking a pretty wide view of, again, it's not an individual. It is, you are viewing it almost from an external perspective. So this would be a good RPG for people who are not really familiar with RPGs in general. Just because like it's hard for you to kind of take the role of something, but it's easy for people to observe something from afar. And like it's hard to take, again, it's if you're not an actor, if you're not into improv, it is difficult to kind of put yourself in that. I suffer from that problem as well. Like it's not very easy for me to do RPGs, but this would be just really it would be a curiosity thing for me of like, what happens with these creatures? And if they die off, that's really sad. But like at the same time, that's what nature does. And that's part of nature. And there's something cathartic about that is just really special. And I don't think really exists in the RPG space in big ways. Again, I'm not super into the RPG space. Heather, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong here, but like this is a pretty unique idea.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of things that kind of mirror that seriousness or the loss or these big moments in a different way, or in a similar way, but they're not this theme. So yeah, I thought it was great. Any other questions, anybody, or thoughts, comments?
I mean, I'm just happy. I'm just
Okay.
happy.
Now we need the link of where we can get this.
Yeah. This is very important.
We might be. Yeah, we're excited.
I would love, like, if you do have recommendations of artists that you think would vibe with drawing these, like, I'm always receptive. Because, like, I mean, I don't know, like, this is the first time I put the rule book together like this, and I've been working on it for a while, just as a kind of a Google Doc. So I just really appreciate the good vibes, and it's kind of weird because it's different in that it's zoomed out, like what you said. So it's really helpful to hear you say that you're resonating with it, because there's always that feeling of like, is it too off track from what you would expect a story game or an RPG to be?
So one final comment is, in lieu of actually doing playtest, maybe tell a story of a game that you played. Like, you did a little bit of it, but
That's a good idea.
But like, I mean, that's what like role playing games, like that's what they're there for. They're for telling stories. Like, you always leave every single RPG with a really cool story, and write one down, and just like keep the highlights and say like, this is an actual game, something that happened in an actual game. I saw a little bit in the guidebook, but like, tell the story during the pitch. Like, this is the cool thing that happened. Like, I still remember when my friend Doug literally just got up, left the room, shut us in, and was like, goodbye. And we're like, what's going on? It was just a cool story. Like, we want to hear those really cool moments that are instigated because of this design.
I second that. That's a really good idea. I like that.
All right.
Awesome.
I think we're
Thank
low
you,
on
Nat.
time, so thank you very much, Nat.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the feedback.
All right, have a good one. I mean, I saw Julie's face the second that came up.
Saturday. I'm just so happy right now.
Oh my god, that was so amazing. And how did I knew that they were pitching this because I know Nat personally, and I'm like, I should maybe pitch me this game, but it's really cool.
Heather, I want to work on it. Like, I'm not normally an RPG person, but like,
we might convert you.
The science teacher biologist in me is just like, I want to know what the system can do. Let's go.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome. Well, that was fun, and that was different for sure than everything we've seen. So we got a little change up here, and then we've got, I think, Victoria coming in next. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, Victoria.
Hi. I'm Victoria. I'm one of 5 designers on this game called Greener Gardens, where your goal is to have the most stylish garden and become the envy of your neighborhood. So Greener Gardens is a competitive turn-based card game for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up. Games average around 30 minutes. And one of the best things about this game is that it's super easy to learn, but there's so much depth to master. And so let's talk about the setup. We have 2 decks. We have 1 water seeds and 2 water seeds. During the game, players will be placing these down and using water tokens to grow them into flowers. So they'll have 5 of these cards in their hand. There's your starting hand there. And players will also have a specific number of styled tokens. So each plant is worth a certain number of style points, and you'll place those style tokens down as you grow those plants. Once you have all those style tokens in your garden, you've won the game. So let's get into an example. So let's say you're playing a 2-player game. It's a 1v1, and you have the first turn. So the first turn is always just placing a seed down in the center of the play space, and that's it. And now it's your opponent's turn. And from here on out, each player must take 2 actions. And then your options for those actions are just placing a seed or watering one. And that's it, simple. So your opponent places a seed down, and they decide to water it. Because it only costs 1 water, it grows into a Venus flytrap. And so we can see this Venus flytrap is worth 1 style token, thanks to that star icon there. And this is our first plant effect that's been revealed. We have 3 types of plant effects, and this one is a transpire type. So transpire types can be activated during your turn at any point, and they can be used multiple times, but they usually come at a cost. And of course, this cost is Venus flytrap will lose 1 water, but the benefit of that is that you can take away water from a diagonal card. So now we're looking at this opponent card and going, ooh, I'm a little bit wary of placing down any cards in those diagonal positions. So that was our opponent's 2 actions, and so it's back to us. We decide to place a seed, and as our second, we'll place another seed down and start preparing the setup here. So your opponent places another seed down, they water it, it's a 2 water cost, so it doesn't yet grow, and it's back to us. So we decide, well, let's finish watering off this plant here. We spend our 2 actions using water on it, and it grows into a lotus. So lotus has a different type of effect. It's a sprout effect. And so sprout effects immediately take place as soon as that plant is grown. And so with this lotus card, we can move up to 2 waters from lotus to any other cards of our choice. So let's use this effect. We'll take a water from lotus, use it to grow this seed here. It turns into a ghost pipe, which we'll talk about in a bit. And let's decide to take another water from lotus and place it on our other seed, and it grows into a pinwheel jasmine. If we look at pinwheel jasmine, it also has a sprout effect, so it activates immediately here, and we can choose an adjacent card to lose 1 water. And so adjacent to us is our opponent's Venus flytrap, so we take away that water from it. Now, that's the end of our turn. We spent our 2 actions, and now there's no water left on lotus. So what happens to it? Well, at the end of your turn, if any of your plants have 0 water on them, then they get composted, which means they're removed from the board, and you have to take those style tokens back. But let's go take a look at that ghost pipe we had planted earlier. Ghost pipe, this is our last effect type. It's continuous, so it's always active, and ghost pipe gains 1 style token each time any plant is composted. And so, because we just composted that lotus, we'll place a style token on ghost pipe. And that's just like a glimpse of the sort of decision making and thinking you're going to do in this game. Now, when it goes back to your opponent, they have to consider, should I save my Venus flytrap and spend an action to water it? Do I want to continue watering that 2 water seed? Maybe I should set up more and place seeds down. So there's so much of this decision making, and we have so many different plant effects, and they're all really unique and exciting to use. We have things that affect entire rows and columns. They can buff other plants and increase their style points. They have unique ways of getting their own style tokens. We also have things that counter and mess with your opponent, things that block plant abilities, things that prevent other plants from gaining water. And so there's so many really cool and exciting combos, and it really adds to the replayability of playing Greener Gardens. And so just to wrap it up, we have these 60 cards. There's 25 unique plants and, of course, the water tokens. And again, this can be played by up to 4 players. So we have those 4 colors for the style tokens. And that is Greener Gardens.
That was a fantastic pitch.
Yep.
That was it.
That's how you do it.
That is.
Yep.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I just want to play this game now. Like, I get it. Like, I understand exactly what's going on. I know exactly what to do. I freaking love the directionality. Holy crap, that is awesome. One recommendation that I would do, and this is kind of a small thing, but take a page out of Wingspan and make the separate ability cards, the abilities, like the continuous, the sprouting, make those, have them have a distinct background.
Okay.
So that you know, like, oh, this is an immediate. This is a continuous. This is an end of round. Whatever it is.
That is more of a publisher note,
exactly,
than
but
designer note. But yes, that was helpful.
Just in terms of like play testing for it'll really help to distinguish, like, oh, which cards do I have to care about during the game right now? Because that I just saw, like, immediately right here, I wouldn't be able to tell which, like, looking at this picture on screen right now, I would not be able to tell which of the cards, like, can attack other ones during the game. And I just want to know what that is so I can plan accordingly and not be surprised. But yeah,
But that's the thing that a publisher would
exactly
spend up more time on, and very specific thing. So the pitch itself, though, you got through the stats very quickly. You immediately got us in turnarounds, and we're going through it. You explained things in succinct, made it showed, instead of telling us why the decision making was interesting and varied. So you said it very quickly at the beginning, but then you showed us why. And it was short, and we got, and yes, and then we are ready to sit down and actually play it as publishers, being like, yes, I'm interested. I'd like to play this. I want to, mess with it and see how this happens, or how I could tweak it, or if I wanted to do a graphic design, what that would look like, and put it in my head of, as a publisher, if I'm taking it on, like, I'm already there. That was fantastic.
100%.
Thank you.
I think a very good point to bring up as to how you can know we're not just saying it was fantastic. Ian remembered your 3 action names after 2 seconds of you mentioning it to us, right? So he knew, your action Sprout, like he's been playing the game for a year, because you immediately, you so succinctly and clearly explained what those 3 were, that we understood it immediately. So that was
They're
great
also
how you
right
did
there. I didn't have to guess.
Okay, good point. But then my other point is, I want to just commend you on the presentation slideshow that you're sharing. Shows that you probably do a lot online, because the font was nice and big. It was clear, and we could see it without having to zoom in, which, again, this is a learning curve, but you did a good job right off the bat of that first page had 4 bullet points. It was very clear. I didn't have to zoom in like this to see it.
Contact information is on the bottom.
Contact information's there. And I don't have to be distracted trying to read that while I'm listening to you. So that was a really good, just from a graphic design perspective on your pitch. I thought that was a great thing. If I had to think of one negative, I guess the only thing would be that I wanted maybe a little bit more, since it was so succinct, to maybe do like a full setup, like maybe a setup like you did early through your play, and maybe an end game type of situation. But that's just a minor point.
Okay, thank you.
So I've been saying this over the past couple pitches here, but I often say, try to get the publisher in the seat of the actual player and having them make decisions. What you did was very close to that, where you had the setup and you were like, well, you could do this or you could do this. And I was following along. I was like, okay, I get it. Okay, cool. Yes, I agree with you. That's a good decision. Let's go. So for those of you who are kind of nervous about putting it literally in the hands of the publisher, do what Victoria just did, and literally offer like, oh, you could do this or this. We're going to do this time though, just for example purposes.
Let's say you chose this.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes it, again, we are already thinking about this, and by you just being like, oh, we're going to do this time, we're just like, okay, let's go. And it's just we're just along for the ride. And you know what? It worked, because I honestly do not see how this is not published. Like, this is just a really solid game.
Thank you.
I guess since it was so succinct, unless you have anything else, Julie, do you have any questions for us, Victoria?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is like my first time doing something like this. Us and my other designers, we do video games. So like this pitching like a real physical board game is like a new thing to us. So I'm just like here, like trying to figure out like, what am I supposed to expect? We did a ton of research. Like, how do we present this to people? So I'm glad it paid off.
You got it. Do this.
Yeah. No, for your first official, like, a formal board game pitch, very good job. You've obviously gotten the right research, and good luck to you. I hope we see this published soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, that was great.
Yeah.
And looks so cute, and we understood it immediately. So I was invested right away.
Oh, yeah.
I love a flower game.
Oh, it's just
a plant game.
I mean, we just need to do more of that stuff, of just like having real life things represented as game stuff. It's like, oh, that's so cool. It's why Wingspan just like took off. It's like, oh, birds. I know
They
birds.
exist.
I like birds.
Yeah.
Oh, I can learn about birds. That's cool. It's just like, I'm a sucker for like educational games, you know?
Yep.
What? No. Don't say.
Awesome. All right. I think we have Phil next.
Is our
final one. Hi.
Our ultimate
Hello,
designer.
everyone.
Hi.
All right. Let me see how I'm doing here. Okay. Let's go. I'm Phil Gross, and this is Quackjack. So this is a simple and interactive family weight card game. Quackjack is a lot like Blackjack, except the numbers keep on moving. The game plays across 3 rounds in 25 minutes, and it supports 3 to 5 players. Similar to Blackjack, you're going to be playing cards in front of you, this time from a hand, and you're trying to hit a target goal without busting. The twist is that your cards have no ranks, and their values will be changed by your neighbor. On your turn, if you play the chicken card, your neighbor will choose to change its rank to an available spot on this number row. Your first card that you play is hidden face down, and your subsequent cards are face up. At the end of a round, the players decide simultaneously if they're in or out. If fewer than 2 people are still in, the round will end, and then we'll check to see who came closest to the goal. First and second place earn points, and the high score at the end of 3 rounds wins. Each time you play Quackjack, you'll choose 1 power card during setup, and each player will get the same power card, which they can use only during 1 round. That's the game. And thanks for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so walk us through a round, please.
Sure. So what will happen is, I've got the game here. The start player will have the farmer token, and they'll have a hand of cards. So maybe they've got cow, chicken, sheep, and they'll play a card face down, and then the next player behind them is going to choose one of the animals to assign. Sorry, I have a fine motor shake.
All good.
And they're going to assign an animal to the ranking row.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's 5 animals. And so after the first round, everyone's going to have 1 card face down, and all 5 of the animals will have been assigned to that row. And then in subsequent rounds, if I play, for example, the sheep face up, then the player trailing me is going to be, the duck, and they will move the sheep to the rank of their choice. So in this way, the cards that you see face up are the ones where you're anticipating what that player might want to change the value to.
Yeah.
And so deep dive a little bit, it ends up playing a bit like a stock game because you are sort of hitching your horse onto other people's desires.
Yep.
And there's limited choice as to what each thing can be moved to. That's really interesting.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I like that. I had another question. I saw on the in or out section, people could, I guess, fold or stay like in regular blackjack. And there was a target number of 18. Is it always 18 or does that vary per round?
That varies based on the number of players. So
Okay.
18 is a 3-player game, and then 4 and 5 players is 15. And I haven't had a chance to test 6 players yet, but I'm getting there.
Gotcha. So there'll be a known based off the number of players, but once you have the number of players, it's always the target goal, like 21 in blackjack, for example, right?
Correct. Yep. You know at the start of the game.
Got it.
How challenging is it for people to keep track of what number they're at?
It's not too bad. So I play with kids. So I have a 9-year-old and she plays regularly and loves it. The real advanced play is if you want to start tracking other people's as well. But that's not necessary. You can do well at the game just by focusing on your own numbers and just kind of keeping track. Like you can always look at your face down card, for example, and say like, okay, I've got 11 right now. It might change to 14 if this happens. It ends up being kind of light, honestly.
Okay. Yeah. How many cards does any one person get in a round?
Depends on the number of players, but in a 3-player game, you start with 6.
No, like in front of you, like.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the going in and out is decided after the round of each player playing 1 card.
Oh, okay. So you only ever have 2 cards out at a time.
So, sorry, I might be explaining this poorly. After the second card goes out, after everyone has played their second, is the first opportunity for people to go out. And then after the third, everyone has their third, you decide again. After everyone has played their fourth, you decide again. And so it can keep on going until enough people have gone out.
Oh, okay. So like my question is like what's the maximum number of cards that any one person would have? Like in your plays, like have you ever gotten like 6 cards out at once?
It's a funny question because it can happen if you're really vindictive. If you're down in a death spiral with someone else and you're trying to tank their cards, it could happen, but that's rare. So usually it'll end around 4 cards in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not overwhelming math.
No.
Okay. That was my biggest concern of like when things shift a lot, it's really hard to keep track of like what number you're currently at. But when you only have like 2 to 4 cards and like if you want to go for it a lot, you're already invested in the round, and so you're like, okay, I'm going to do the math. This is like, I'm in. Let's go. So I think that wouldn't matter too much. But yeah.
So as presentations go, you gave us the rule sets very quickly and succinctly, and that was great. You had plenty of extra time, and the example that I wanted can fit in there very easily and clear up a lot of the confusion that we were having. So doing screenshots of the same thing, just top down. Let's say I played or you play same thing that we've been talking with the other people is, let's say you have chicken, cow, pig. And you decide and do the screenshot like of a 2-player really quickly through the first 2 rounds. I think that one will clean up all the confusion that we have, and to really get us to understand like, but also when you said it that it's a words, it's getting late.
Well, I'll pop in while you're thinking.
Auction.
Oh, you got it?
Auction.
Got it. Okay, go.
Stock
Auction.
Stock game. Thank you.
Stock game.
When you said it, it clicked for me. I would have seen it with the example if you hadn't said it.
Yeah, and I think you had a short enough pitch that 2 more slides, 3 more slides that explain that would be good. I agree with that. I also think, based off Ian's question, and I think a lot of publishers will think about this, is that mental load question. So I think addressing that it's a low mental load, even with all the variables or whatever fun wording you want to say, I think that's actually a good way to put it, because a lot of times people will go, oh, that sounds really hard. And, it really isn't. So I think that would be something to address just very quickly in a nice succinct sentence. I would add that in there as well. And the fact that you've played it with kids and it's family weight, obviously it doesn't mean it's only for kids. But I think playing up that you could play it with kids, and that, the mental load is.
Theming wise, it's assumed that you can play it with kids. So it's good.
Well, yes, theming wise, it's already assumed that you could. The fact that it's based off blackjack is where, you think, can you really? And so addressing that and making it clear that yes, you can. And if you want to say 8 or 10 or whatever you feel the most comfortable number to be, I think that helps you as far as addressing your audience and with the theme. I'm trying to think of anything else. I loved the idea of the row and the ranking. I liked the animals. That was cute. I was a little stuck on what the special abilities were. So maybe once we would take a break, like explain those, like this would change it this way. This would change it this way after you do that example. Maybe that's something you could do.
Okay. Great. Thank you all very much for your feedback and time. I
just want to
appreciate
be in
it.
a death spiral with someone over chickens now.
Good stories.
Spiral.
Good stories. That's
Good stories.
Good stories.
So it's the kind of game that, you can have a friendly game, but sometimes it can go a little cutthroat in a good way, right? Is that what you would say?
Sure.
Gameplay's experience,
if you can imagine, I've got a chicken that's sitting on 2, and I kind of want it near 2, and then my daughter recognizes that and makes it a 7 instead. I'm done.
Yep. No, it sounds fun. All right. Well, good luck with everything, and send us your information and we'll make sure to share it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my God. We've had the cutest themes tonight. Like
Right?
the best themes.
But it is so cute and stabby.
Cute and stabby. Exactly. And that's why at first I didn't think it was going to be so stabby. And then the more I was like, actually, this could get, when he said Death Spiral.
Yeah.
This could be, and that's the kind of game I like, where it's fun and light in the rules, but it can get a little bit more like that.
But also, yes, I feel like it's also, so for me, it's like that fun, sweet spot of, yes, it's family weight, but also I can just play it late night with everybody when we're
100%.
tired and feeling a little bit salty, and we can take it out on each other.
It's the Loop and Louie
see
effect.
a place for this.
Yes. All right. Well, this was great. Thanks to all of our designers tonight. They all did a good job. A lot of it was their first pitch ever, so we got to a little clap, commend them for doing such a good job.
Awesome job, everyone.
Indeed.
Everybody. And I'm going to do a little quick Unpub plug, and then we'll let you two let everybody know where to get you. But we've got our big Unpub in-person playtesting convention coming up in March. So check out unpub.net or our Facebook or Twitter for that information. And you may or may not have seen, designers, that Gamma is doing a designer day at Gamma Expo that many of us Unpub people are involved with. So that's March 3rd at the Gamma Expo, and you can find more out at their website. Anybody have any last thoughts or feedback, general feedback that we didn't touch on, advice?
I think sell sheet wise, if anybody wants it, we talked about it. I'm Julie at vanridergames.com. Van Rider with a Y, RYDER games. So feel free to email me, and I'm happy to chat or email any of you back with any of that if you want to just send me a link directly. And thanks for making this an awesome Saturday night.
Indeed. I'm really glad I got a chance to be a part of this. This was really fun.
Cool. Ian, where can we find you?
Various places. I've kind of gone dark a little bit in this past year, but Ian at gravitation.games, or at Ian Zhang Design on Twitter, or just Ian Zhang on Blue Sky if you're there. Honestly, my name is pretty unique. If you Google me, you'll find me.
Awesome.
So on social media, I'm usually Mushroom Julie.
That's true.
Nice. And yeah, so as for taking off my Unpub hat, putting on my publisher hat, with 9th level games, which is typically at 9th level with the number 9 everywhere, or my personal Heather O'Neill, which is not a unique name, and you'll find a million other Heather O'Neills, but on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, Cat Physicist, if you want to hit me up there. Otherwise, we will see you at the conventions. We will see you at the playtesting events, and just want to thank everybody again for such a good job tonight.
Indeed.
Thank you all. Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.